Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be for Infinity Engravings LLC. And I'm starting out with my chipboard letters. And I'm going to paint these just using some acrylic paint. And I added a couple coats of white gesso to the letters before I added the acrylic paint over the top so that it wouldn't soak in and that you'd see the vibrant colors. So for the blue, turquoise, and green ones, they are by Dylusions, London Blue, Cut Grass, and Vibrant Turquoise. And then the origin yellow I use are by Dina, Tangerine and Lemon. And then between each color I just use the paper towel and some water to clean up the acrylic paint. It cleans up really easy. So I go through and paint each one of my letters. And this is going to be a canvas for my nephew, Marty. He likes bright colors and everything in nature and water and getting dirty. Everything little boys love. And the only significance between the two kinds of paint I use, one is a more fluid acrylic and this one is a heavy body acrylic. That just means this one's thicker. And if you were to apply it thicker to a surface and then use some sort of tool on it, you could get texture to stay in the paint. Whereas with the Dylusions, because it's so much thinner, it's not going to be able to keep that texture. But if you're just adding color, then both of them work fine, and I use them together all the time. So here I'm going to start my canvas. This is a 8 by 14. Traditional acrylic canvas, and the tissue paper I'm using is Tim Holtz Postale. And then I'm using Prima soft matte medium to adhere the paper down. And the reason I use these printed tissue papers for a background is just because it adds some interest without having to do a lot of work. So I end up painting over it, but the acrylic paints I keep somewhat transparent so that it's not so loud that it takes all the attention away from everything I put on top of it. But it does add some interest to the background, so it's not just flat and boring. And I like to wrap my tissue paper all the way around to the back of the canvas, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just think it gives it a more finished look when it's all said and done. And what I like about these framed canvases, not all canvases have this wooden frame in the back, and the reason I use these is because it makes it sturdier and it lasts longer, but it also conveniently there's a little notch between the canvas and the wooden frame that you can slide your craft knife down to get a clean cut from the paper. So while that dries, I move on to doing more to my letters. And here I'm using some Crackle medium, and these are pigment powders by Lindy Stamp Gang. And these are flat magicals, which means they don't have any shimmer in them. But you add the powder to whatever medium you're using. You can use white acrylic paint. This is Crackle medium. You can use embossing paste. Trying to think of what else. You can add them to just water and get like an ink spray out of them too. So I added this to Crackle medium using a Tim Holtz mini stencil. So this is a brick pattern. And I just take my palette knife and kind of scrape off the excess off the edges. And apparently I'm off camera there, but I'm doing the same thing using a different stencil with the leftover Crackle medium. So that's a small paint splatter stencil, also from Tim Holtz. I believe those are set 3. And this is some called Jelly Bean Green, shimmery green acrylic paint. Mine is old, and that's why it's kind of gel-like in texture. So I probably wouldn't have used this if I had known it was going to be so thick, but it's kind of too late to start over. So it did end up working. It just wasn't as smooth as I would like it to be. But I did like the contrast and the pop that the green on the yellow added. And as always, you want to make sure you are cleaning your stencils and tools immediately after you're done, because if the paint or the texture Crackle medium dries on there, you won't be able to get it off, and it will pretty much ruin whatever it dries to. With the nonstick craft mat that I'm using, you can do that. You can let it dry and it just peels off because it's nonstick, but the plastic that the stencils and tools are made of, it won't come off. So this is another one of the Lindy Stamp Gang Flat Magicals powders. This one's called Curious Chartreuse. And it's kind of a yellow-green color. And I use the same Crackle medium. And then there's our brick stencil. And then this is another one of the stencils in the same set, and this is just letters. And I'm using up the rest of that texture medium. So now we're going to go back to our canvas, and this is completely dry. You want to make sure it's dry so that you don't end up ripping or peeling up the paper. So I'm starting with the Dina Tangerine, which is a nice bright orange color. And I make sure that I get my edges. Again, it just, in my opinion, it leads to a more finished piece when you're done. then I go in with my yellow. And I blend the two colors right on the canvas. Just kind of go back and forth between the two till you get a soft blend. You do want to be a little bit careful because you can blend to that you have no actual yellow left, which is kind of what started to happen, so I add a little bit more. And then I move to the Cut Grass Dylusions Green. And clean off my brush to make sure there's no orange in there, because if I mix the orange with the green, I will get brown. And brown is not the color I'm going for with this canvas. So you can see what I mean by the acrylic being just slightly transparent, so that you can still see some of the background print, but it's not so intense. Got a little bit of blue and the yellow apparently. So I clean off my brush, and the blue that I'm using there is London Blue by Dylusions. And then my fifth color is Vibrant Turquoise by Dylusions. So after that was dry, and I probably left it a few hours to dry. So here I'm using a star stencil, and I'm just using some Post-it tape to mask off where I don't want the paste to get. And then this is Prima Opaque Matte Modeling Paste. So this is going to dry completely matte, completely opaque, what I meant to say. And I just put down a few piles, and then I add some more of the Lindy Stamp Gang pigment powder to it. And the two colors I use here, I think it's Tilt-A-Whirl Teal and Lucky Shamrock Green. And these both have a little bit of shimmer to them. And when you're doing something like this, you want to think about where your colors are going to go in terms of how they're going to pop against each other. So if you look at a color wheel, orange and blue are opposite, and they're called complementary colors. So that's why I put the blue and the green on top of where the orange and yellow meet, so that it would really kind of bounce off the canvas and really show up nicely. So I washed off my stencil, and then down in the corner I'm going to add a gold metallic, it's called Creative Medium, but it's also a texture paste, using the little star. And then I decided to stay with the same gold texture paste. and add a bigger one over to the side. And then I also add another one down in that corner of the canvas. And one to the top corner. So here I'm adding my letters, and I'm using some more of the matte medium gel to do that. So I added a little bit thickly because I want to make sure that there's plenty of adhesion. And so I place it down, and then I add something heavy on top just to make sure there's complete contact. And then here at the bottom, I'm using some stickers. They're called thickers, actually, thick stickers. And to do my scripture verse at the bottom. And these are self-adhesive, but they tend to fall off after a while. So I like to just reinforce that adhesion with some more of the matte medium. And in case you're wondering, that's Jeremiah 29:11. So it may seem a little bit weird that the letters don't go straight down, but I zigzag them to add a little bit of interest to the canvas as well as some fullness. And I think it makes it more interesting to look at. Because when you see it, you'll be able to read it, but it's not the way you're going to expect it to look, I guess. It's more unexpected. So after I had my letters placed, I added some metal embellishments using E6000. So this is a key with a clock and wings on it. And then because My little guy loves nature so much. He loves to be outside, loves to watch the birds, play with frogs, all that kind of stuff. I thought these feathers would really tickle his fancy. And I did not end up using all the buttons. I thought with the buttons it was just too crowded. So I only used some of the feathers, the little bird, and the anchor. Oh, I think I kept the star buttons too. I'll have a lot more close-up detail stills on the blog post that goes with this video if you're interested in looking at those. And I will warn you, E6000 is a metal-specific glue, so it's very strong and it works really well, but it's very stinky. So you're going to want to have a fan running or open window, something like that. So that pretty much finishes up our canvas. I hope you enjoyed watching the process video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I will answer them best I can. And don't forget to subscribe if you liked what I had to offer. And we will see you next time. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.